So what really sustains us? I mean, is it just the food we eat, the things we can see with our own eyes, or is it something else? We're going to dive into 3 encounters that really challenge how we think about faith, and it all kicks off with a simple but pretty profound misunderstanding. Okay, so picture this. The disciples have just gotten back from a food run. They find Jesus talking to a Samaritan woman, and they're like, hey, you should probably eat something. But he hits them with this line. You can just feel their confusion, right? And it's the perfect setup for a huge lesson about what truly fuels us.
All right, first up, a different kind of food. The disciples, they're just thinking about an actual physical meal. So when Jesus says he's not hungry, they just can't wrap their heads around it, and it sends them down a totally wrong path. And this is what they come up with. It's the only thing that makes sense to them. Somebody else must have beaten them to it and brought him lunch. It's a classic case of missing the bigger picture, and it's right here that the real teaching begins. This slide just lays it out so clearly. You've got 2 totally different ways of seeing the world. On one side, the disciples are thinking literally. They're on an agricultural clock. The harvest is 4 months away. But Jesus, he's trying to get them to see something else. He tells them to look up because the real harvest, a harvest of people ready to believe, is happening right now. And here it is, the big reveal. When Jesus talks about his food, he's not talking about something you can eat. He's talking about his purpose. His real energy, his sustenance, comes from doing the work he was sent to do. This is the spiritual reality that the disciples just aren't seeing yet. So let's move on to our second part, the harvest in Samaria. Because, while the disciples were totally hung up on lunch, that spiritual harvest Jesus was talking about, it was already starting. And it was all because of the woman he'd just been talking to. And this is just a fantastic look at how faith can catch on. It all begins with one person's story. The woman runs back and says, you have to come see this man who told me everything about myself. That sparks curiosity. It gets the whole town to come out and see for themselves. And they don't just take her word for it. They actually spend 2 days listening to him. And that direct experience, it changes everything. This is what they end up telling the woman. It's so powerful. Their belief has grown from just hearing a rumor into a real, personal conviction because they experienced it themselves. This right here is the harvest that Jesus was trying to tell his disciples about. Okay, our third and final section, belief without seeing. The story now takes a turn and moves to Galilee, where we meet a desperate official who's about to face, the ultimate test of faith. So the people in Galilee are happy to see Jesus, but you gotta notice the reason why. Their belief is based on proof. They'd already seen him perform miracles in Jerusalem, and this reliance on spectacle, on needing to see it to believe it, sets the stage perfectly for the very different kind of faith that's about to be asked of someone. Now, Jesus says this to the official, and honestly, it sounds a little harsh at first, but what it really is a challenge. It's a direct challenge to a kind of faith that needs a big show, a belief that only works if you get undeniable, flashy, miraculous proof first. And here we get to the heart of it. The official is pleading for a physical act. Come down. He thinks Jesus has to physically be there in the room for his son to be healed. But Jesus doesn't do that. He responds with just a word, a command, and it requires pure belief in his authority, even from miles away. This right here, this is the turning point. The official could have argued, he could have begged for more, but he doesn't. He makes a choice. He chooses to act on that word alone, with no sign, no proof, nothing. He just trusts, turns around, and starts the long walk home. This timeline just lays out the incredible payoff for his faith. As he's heading home, his servants run out to meet him with the good news, and he asks them this crucial question. When did he start to get better? And they say, yesterday, at 1 p.m. And in that moment, the man realizes it was the exact time that Jesus spoke those words, your son will live. The result is just massive. The official's faith, which started with a simple choice to trust a spoken word, is now confirmed with this incredible proof. That delayed sign makes everything real, and it brings not just him, but his entire household to believe. And it's so interesting that the text specifically points out that this was the second sign Jesus did in Galilee. Remember the first one? Turning water into wine, that was a big public spectacle. But this one's different. It's a private miracle, built not on a public show, but on one man's personal choice to believe a word. So at the end of it all, we're left with this really big question.
We've seen the disciples who couldn't see past physical food. We've seen the Samaritans who needed to hear for themselves, and the Galileans who needed to see a show. And then there's this official who simply took Jesus at his word. It really makes you wonder, does true faith begin when we can finally believe without needing to see?